Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Commissioner, I just want to cover a couple of preliminary matters. Some in the industry have expressed concerns that the changes that we make to HUD's authority around indemnification on a prospective basis might be used by HUD to justify that same treatment on a retroactive basis. Section 3 of the text quite clearly states that that authority shall only apply to mortgages insured under this title that were originated on or after the date of enactment of this bill. I just want to allay any remaining fears out there with regard to that understanding and get your confirmation for the record that you understand that HUD understands this authority is prospective and that Congress would not be granting retroactive indemnification authority.
Yes, we do understand that.
Thank you. And with regard to, I want to follow up a little on the Chairman's questions about your question about the need for mandatory premium surcharges. As I understand your point, you indicate that there are other ways and other actions that can be undertaken to deal with the issue. The concern that I have, or the question that I have, is that, as I understand it, nothing in this bill prohibits the FHA from undertaking any number of the alternatives that I heard you suggest when the FHA is meeting its capital obligations to ensure that it continues to do so. And so, to me, the question becomes this. It really relates to the point in time that you're addressing the circumstance when the capital levels of the FHA are in violation of federal law and Congress needs assurances that actions will be taken. It would seem to me that the actions you're talking about should have already been undertaken before we get to that point. But that when we are at the point where literally the law is being violated, is not that a reason to have a mandatory surcharge, or are you suggesting that there should be no requirement for a surcharge even in that circumstance?
Yes. So again, I think we have to look at when we are certain that we're going to be below the capital ratio, whatever that is, whether it's 2 or 3%, depending on where we are in time in the bill. You know, that will be calculated, you know, by the actuarial each year, maybe more often as we go down the road here. But as we see that happening, it's going to take time to institute policy changes. So some of the policy changes that at the moment in time that we hit that capital ratio or being below it, will take some time to implement policy changes that could include some things that are not specifically a premium increase. And if we do that at a time, if we just simply go right to the premium increase at that point in time, again, we could be cutting off borrowers at the wrong time and you know, worsening the economic situation for them and for the market. So we want to be careful about when and how we, you know, add premium increases. And we certainly, you know, just to be clear, we get that that's a very important tool, and this administration, to the chagrin of many, you know, we've increased premiums 5 times and very significantly during this crisis to get us back to a point where we are, you know, appropriately pricing for the risk that we're taking on.
No, thank you. It seems to me there is a tension, because I understand your point that the premium increases can have an impact on volume and could actually have an impact on the ability of the FHA to manage with the flexibility that it needs. I also see the point, though, that at some point, if the other actions that you are talking about are not working, at some point there needs to be the assurance that the capital and the fund will be protected, and the premium increases seem to be that final assurance. And so although I can see the need for the flexibility, I can also see a concern if we simply have no point at which we have an assurance that the capital of the fund will be protected. And we'll need to visit with you and others further about that, I assume, as we move forward. One other quick question. I know we'll hope we'll have a couple of rounds here today, Mr. Chairman. You've asked the committee to give the FHA broad authority to transfer servicing rights, and some have suggested that even if we make it part of the evaluation for termination from the program, some industry participants and experts have suggested that this authority could, in some scenarios, drastically reduce the value of these servicing rights. understanding why you want this authority, do you acknowledge the possibility that this could impact the value of servicing rights?
So I would say we are asking for authority when servicers are not meeting their obligations, their performance obligations, as outlined in our servicing requirements. We would do this through a rulemaking process where we would lay out very clearly what the benchmarks are before this type of activity would be triggered. And I do believe that we can have this authority without having it in a way that will impact the value of servicing rights. What we're really talking about is getting servicers who aren't performing to say, bring in a subservicer. We're looking for the tools to kind of force the activity to be what it needs to be. We're not trying to impact the value of servicing rights here.
Well, thank you. My time's expired. I may come back and visit with you a little further about that.